An ominous silence hung over Blackwood Cemetery, a quiet so profound it felt like a physical weight. For Leo, however, it was merely a backdrop for his impending triumph. Leaning against the cold, wrought-iron gates, he grinned at his friends, the beam of their car's headlights illuminating his face in a ghostly glow. "So, the Graveyard Challenge," Leo said, his voice laced with the easy confidence of a 17-year-old who believed himself invincible. "Spend one night, from midnight to sunrise, alone in this dump. And you guys are seriously betting $100 I can't do it." Liam, ever the dramatic one, leaned out of the passenger window. "It's not just any dump, Leo. It's Blackwood. You know the stories. The Weeping Woman of Blackwood." "Oh, here we go," Leo scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Give it a rest, Liam. You and your campfire stories." "They say she lost her child a century ago," Chloe added from the back seat, her voice a nervous whisper. "And now she wanders the graves, her cries so full of sorrow they'll drive you mad if you hear them." "Madness, huh?" Leo chuckled, pulling his hoodie tighter around him. "Sounds like a typical Saturday night for you guys. Look, it's a bunch of old stones and dead people. They're not going to bother me." He held out his hand. The camera, Ben handed him the small, handheld night vision camera. "Rules are simple, man. Stay inside the gates until the first ray of sunlight hits that eastern gate. No phone. Just you and you and the camera." Leo took a final theatrical bow. "Don't spend that $100 all in one place, folks. I'll see you at dawn, a little richer and a lot more bored." His friends offered a few more half-hearted warnings before the car's red taillights disappeared down the winding road, plunging Leo into an almost absolute darkness, broken only by the pale, indifferent light of a distant moon. The heavy gates groaned shut behind him, the sound echoing unnaturally in the stillness. For the first hour, Leo was in his element. He wandered through the rows of tombstones, the night vision camera casting an eerie green glow on the world. He read out amusing epitaphs in dramatic voices, cracked jokes to his unseen audience, and even lay down on a flat gravestone, feigning sleep for a few comedic moments. "And here we have Bartholomew Higgins," he narrated to the camera, "beloved husband and father. Probably died of boredom, waiting for a ghost to show up. Don't worry, Bartholomew. I feel your pain." But as the hours crept by, the novelty began to wear off, replaced by a creeping unease. The wind, which had been a gentle whisper, now seemed to carry faint, indecipherable murmurs. The shadows cast by the ancient cypress trees danced and writhed, playing tricks on his eyes. A twig snapped nearby, and Leo whipped around, his heart giving a sudden, sharp jolt. He saw nothing but more stones, more shadows. "Just a squirrel," he muttered, his voice sounding small and fragile in the vast emptiness. A thick, unnatural fog began to seep in from the low-lying areas of the cemetery, clinging to the ground like a shroud. It swirled around his ankles, then his knees, until the world beyond a few feet became a blurry, indistinct mess. The air grew colder, a damp chill that seeped into his bones. It was then that he heard it for the first time. A faint, distant sound, almost lost in the rustling of the leaves. It was high-pitched and mournful, a sound of profound grief. A woman crying. Leo froze, every muscle in his body tensing. He told himself it was the wind, a trick of the fog, his own imagination running wild in the spooky setting. But the sound came again, a little closer this time, a heartbreaking sob that seemed to vibrate in the very air around him. A cold knot of fear tightened in his stomach. The bravado he had worn like a suit of armor began to crack. He decided to move, to do something, anything to distract himself from the sound. He pushed deeper into the cemetery, into the older section, where the tombstones were crumbling and tilted, their inscriptions worn away by time and sorrow. And then he saw it, a small, isolated mausoleum, its stone facade dark with age and creeping ivy. The heavy, iron-strapped door was slightly ajar, a sliver of deeper blackness in the gloom. A morbid curiosity, a desperate need to prove to himself that there was nothing to fear, pulled him forward. "Probably empty," he whispered to the camera, his voice trembling slightly. "Just a stone box." He pushed the heavy door. It swung inward with a low, groaning protest, revealing a small, musty chamber. The air inside was stale and frigid, carrying the scent of damp earth and decay. His camera's green-tinted light fell upon a single child-sized sarcophagus in the center of the room. A chill, colder than the midnight air, snaked its way up his spine. He took a hesitant step inside, and in that instant, a gust of wind slammed the heavy door shut behind him. The sound was a deafening boom, followed by the metallic click of the latch falling into place. He was plunged into near-total darkness. Panic, raw and primal, seized him. He scrambled back to the door, his hands fumbling blindly against the cold, unyielding stone. It wouldn't budge. He was trapped. And the crying was no longer distant. It was right outside the mausoleum, a wail of pure, soul-shattering anguish that clawed at the stone walls. It was the weeping woman, and she knew. He was there. The sound drilled into his ears, into his very soul, a symphony of unending sorrow and rage. He could feel his carefully constructed sanity beginning to fray. Scratching sounds erupted from the other side of the door, a frantic, desperate clawing, as if something was trying to get in. Leo backed away, stumbling over his own feet, his breath coming in ragged, panicked gasps. He raised the camera, its light flickering erratically. In the dancing, intermittent glow, he saw the inscription on the small sarcophagus. He couldn't make out the full name, but the date of death sent a fresh wave of terror through him. It matched the legend Liam had told him. He was in the tomb of the weeping woman's lost child. The camera's battery light began to flash a desperate red. The crying outside intensified, turning into enraged, guttural shrieks. The camera flickered one last time, illuminating the small, grimy window on the mausoleum door. For a fleeting, heart-stopping second, he saw the gaunt, spectral outline of a face, its eyes black holes of despair. Then the camera died. He was in absolute blackness. The shrieking was all around him. Inside his head, a relentless assault on his senses. He curled into a ball on the cold stone floor, pressing his hands over his ears, but it was useless. The sound of her grief was all that existed in the world. Hours passed in a suffocating eternity of terror. He didn't know if he screamed, or cried, or simply lost his mind in the suffocating darkness. Slowly, agonizingly, the shrieking began to subside, replaced once more by the heart-wrenching sobs. And then, as the first faintest hint of gray began to filter through the grimy window, the crying faded away. Silence returned. With a low, mournful creak, the heavy mausoleum door swung open. Leo, or what was left of him, stumbled out into the nascent dawn. The fog had lifted, and the first golden rays of sunlight were just beginning to touch the tops of the tombstones. He was a ghost of his former self, his face pale and gaunt, his eyes wide with a hollow, unseeing terror. He shivered uncontrollably, though the morning air was already growing warm. His friends were waiting at the gate, their playful jeers dying in their throats as they saw him approach. They rushed forward, their faces etched with concern. "Leo, what happened? Are you okay?" Chloe asked, her voice filled with alarm. Leo couldn't speak. He just stared past them, his gaze fixed on some unseen horror. His hand, trembling violently, held out the dead camera. He pressed it into Liam's hand, his touch as cold as the grave he had just left. They wrapped him in a blanket and bundled him into the car, but he remained silent, a shell of the cocky young man who had accepted the challenge just hours before. The $100 lay forgotten on the dashboard. They never knew for sure what happened in that mausoleum. When they finally managed to charge the camera and watch the footage, they saw only what Leo had recorded in his first arrogant hours. The tape cut out just as he approached the mausoleum door. But sometimes, late at night, when the house was quiet, Liam would swear that if you turned the volume all the way up and listened to the static at the very end of the recording, you could hear it, faint and far away.